Yeah. So Mm. we are joined by Kartik here today, who recently attempted GMAT and scored 715 in the Focus Edition, which is equivalent to 760 of the previous scale, and it is above 99 percentile. And this score is basically enough to get shortlisted in any college in the world because the highest average of any college is 730, or that is 685 in the Focus Edition. And I'm talking about Harvard, Wharton. These are the kind of colleges which have an average score of 685, and Kartik has like beaten that score by 30 points and scored 715. So we thought it would be a good idea to interact with him so that we can learn from his experience of what he felt about GMAT, what advices he have for you, and then we open it for Q&A. We'll try to keep it very short and crisp and quickly move to question and answers because the objective of this is to help you all and give you all a perspective of the kind of mindset you need to carry to get the kind of score that we are talking about. Hello, Kartik. Thank you for doing this. And I mean, the first thing that I want to ask is because even I wrote the GMAT Focus Edition in April, and I felt that this exam was pretty unique. So let's just start with what your experience was like. What did you feel about this particular aptitude exam?
I think the GMAT is a very unique exam, unlike any other competitive exams that we give in India. So, like most of the exams have the same set of questions for everyone. Like in GMAT, it's different for everyone, and like depending on your answers, so it's an adaptive test, right?
Mm,
So, depending on your answers, the questions change, the difficulty of the questions change, uh, like in real time while you're giving the paper.
mm.
So it is quite a unique experience, and I think it was one of the most unique exams that I've given, and I think I enjoyed it the most amongst all of the other exams because it was quite unpredictable in some sense.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy the unpredictability because it's very tough to predict what's gonna happen next. And the fact that it is adaptive makes it even more interesting. So,
Correct.
like on the same topic of the fact that it is adaptive and there are sections, there's a constant question that I get a lot, and that is like how to choose the order because there are three sections of 45 minutes. There is data insights, there is quant, and there is verbal. So, what was your thinking behind selecting whatever order you selected, and what was the order that you selected?
I had selected the verbal, then data, then quants. So I would not suggest that to be the particular order that everyone should be using
Mm-hmm.
because it depends on a case to case basis, depends on your strengths, depends on your weaknesses. And since this order was very similar to CAT, like even in I also gave the CAT examination in November.
Mm-hmm.
So this was of an order which I was very comfortable with. Second, we really need to time the optional break that we have in this.
Mm-hmm.
So we only get one optional break. So that should come at a time when you're the most tired, and then you have to give the other sections as well. So that is why I gave the verbal first. I took an optional break after that. Then I gave the data and quants. The reasoning behind giving quants in the end was like I was the most comfortable in giving quants. Like that did not tire my mind a lot, and I thought that I'll be able to do it very well, even with the exhausted mindset. So, and verbal was the most difficult for me,
Mm-hmm.
where I took the help of your GMAT classes as well. So that was the most mentally tiring of all. So, which is why I think I took this. Like I started with verbal, just and the worst thing. But some people might go with quant first. Like that would help you get comfortable because you are comfortable in that section. So it depends on the person himself. So I wouldn't recommend any particular order, but this is my way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, just to summarize that, even I feel that you should do it in the order in whichever way you're comfortable with. The only
Yeah.
problem with doing quant first is you clearly know whether your answer is correct or incorrect, and that can sometimes affect your confidence later on. In verbal, you have a clear idea, but you don't exactly know whether you've done it right or wrong. So even when I wrote my GMAT attempt, I took verbal first, and then I immediately finished quant and then took the break. I like break before data insights makes a lot of sense according to me, because data insights requires a lot of concentration and you need to get your energy back. Unless you're doing that as the first section, it's wise to take the break just before data insights like you took. So I finished the two sections and then took the break for data insights, and I think that worked brilliantly. Yeah, I mean, the order is pretty case specific. It all, it all depends on what kind of person that you are. Just 1 second. Some people are not muted. Yeah, let's get back. Uh, okay. So now that the order is out of the question, there's another new thing that exists in the Focus Edition, and that is the option of bookmarking a question and then coming back to it by once we are done with the entire paper, and we are allowed to edit 3 questions per section. And this is a feature which is much discussed upon and debated upon, because we have seen very varying score because of this feature being used by certain people and this feature not being used by certain people. So did you get a chance to use the edit feature, and what was your opinion on the entire review and edit part of the section at the end?
So, like before attempting the paper, I had decided that I would not use the edit feature because it's very important to get the answer correct in the first attempt. So if you have if you did not understand the question, if you are taking a lot of time on it, but you feel that okay, you'll come back to it later and let's mark anything for now. So that would actually lower your overall score, because once you get a question wrong, since it's an adaptive test, all the other questions that lie ahead would become easier and they would not add to your total score. So even if you get that question correct in the end, it let's say if there are 10 questions left, so you have foregone a lot of points on those 10 questions as well. So
Mhm,
it's very important to get the question correct on the first go. But if you have time left in the section, so let's say I had 5 minutes or 10 minutes left at the end of the quant section.
mhm,
So I went through the whole quant section once. I had marked the questions where I was a little doubtful.
mhm.
So that is where we can use this edit feature, like just to correct all your questions, like
Yes.
just to cross check if you have time. But
So
otherwise, you should not rely on this.
So basically, just to summarize, you're saying that it's important to get it correct in the first go, not rely
Yeah.
on this. But if you have some time left, it gives you an opportunity to go relook the question in which you're not very confident. And just to add to this, I feel the edit feature is like a emergency feature. If you're getting stuck in a question and you feel that will affect the time you have for the other questions, that is the only scenario where you should use this. Ideally, you should not even consider, bookmarking a random question and like randomly just marking an answer and moving on. Yes, Karthik is right. You should do it in like the first attempt, just not rely at all on this. But in emergency, or if you have time left at the end of the section, yes, I mean, this feature can be used, and this feature should be utilized if you have enough time left at the end of the section. Yes, that is absolutely true. Now let's take things section by section in the GMAT attempt. Let's start with the section you're most comfortable with. Let's start with the quantitative section, because I'm sure that preparing for CAT last year would have helped. Like there's just a very different way of asking the question. Apart from that, fundamentally, from a core theoretical point of view, CAT is much more comprehensive and vast. So I can understand that shifting from there to GMAT just required a shift in perspective. But keeping everything in mind, what would you recommend as the mindset and preparation plan that someone should have for quantitative, someone who's just starting just for GMAT?
So for quantitative, I think you should stick to your basics. Like your foundation should be very strong. Like your 10 standard mathematics, your very base level of mathematics should be strong. And I think that would be enough for you to ace the quant section. Then it's just that you'll have to practice a lot to improve your speed,
Mhm.
because the speed can be a constraint at times. And like when you are aiming at a very huge score, then the questions also get a little more difficult. So then you'll actually need more practice. So I think the best thing to do for quant section is practice. And if you think your foundations aren't really that strong, then work on your foundations as well.
Yes, I mean, that's the philosophy that we follow. We keep on saying consistently that speed will come after practice. There's nothing like shortcut. You really have to do all the practice and focus on the foundation. And yeah, with increasing difficulty, I found some challenging questions. Did you have the same thing in your exam? Because I remember I had some questions which I found to be at par or even tougher than one of like the big aptitude other papers that exist. So did you get some of those questions?
Yeah, so at the end of the paper, like when you have got a lot of questions correct, so
Mhm.
when I think it's at the peak difficulty of the exam, I think at that moment there are some questions which are very difficult. So like a summation of some series where you need to recognize a pattern. So such questions can get a little difficult, but I don't think you need to worry a lot about that. If you are getting to those questions, then that itself means that you're getting a really good score.
Yes, yes. Like if you get like a question where you have to identify the pattern in summation, because that was the toughest question in my attempt as well. That means you're like getting that 98, 99, or 100 percentile score.
Yeah.
And that question is coming, that is validation enough that according to the adaptive system of GMAT, you're actually at a very high level. So yes, I mean it's not like all the questions are easy. And what about time management? I'm sure that so my experience was that uh, it balances out. If there were these challenging questions, they were very simple questions which did not take any time. Did you experience the same thing in the quantitative section?
Yeah, so this is a challenge in GMAT. So like you have 45 minutes, you have 22 questions. So one would assume that you have 2 minutes per question.
Mm.
But as you give as you give the answers for your questions, the difficulty increases. So basically, initially, if you are able to solve the questions in a minute or a 1.5 minute, that would be much better for you to get more time at the end, because those questions might get tougher. You'll require more than 2 minutes for them. So yeah, time management is a very difficult kind of thing in this paper.
Yes, that's a very interesting point that you mentioned because like this is a general perception that you should have like a average time per question. But because of the adaptive nature of the paper, you need to see it from a averaging point of view. There are certain questions where you need to do it in 1 to 1.5 minutes, and some questions you would need 3 to 4 or sometimes even 5 minutes. Like the toughest question I had took
Yeah.
6 because there were a lot of calculations. So yes, I mean, not sticking to a strict linear scale of that I need to do every question in 2 minutes is very important. Being that agile, yeah, that's a very good point, Kartik, that you have mentioned. So let's come to the second section, which
So I think the best strategy is do it ASAP.
yeah, do it as soon as possible. Not think too much about the time. It will balance out. If you have
Correct.
prepared nicely, it will balance out. I'm looking at all the questions from the chat. I will definitely take all of these questions in like 15 to 20 minutes once I'm done asking all the questions that I wanted to ask to Kartik, and then I will definitely ask these questions and we'll get the answers to that. So coming to the second section, which is like the data insight section, which was something new in the focus edition. What is your input about that section, and what do you think should be the mindset and strategy for someone appearing for that section?
So like you will require a lot of practice of data insight. So it involves both parts, the reading comprehension and the quant. So it's kind of an amalgamation of both these sections. So basically you need to focus a lot on the questions. This section has a lot of lengthy questions. So like I think they've introduced a new kind of question, which is the two-part analysis and all those type of questions. Those are really lengthy. So, I mean, even I fell short on time. So that is why I got a couple of questions wrong at the end because I was in a hurry. So, which is why like DI requires a lot of practice, like a lot more than quants and verbal, in my opinion, because that is something that hasn't been taught in school as well.
Mhm.
It is a completely different thing, but it only requires your application of logic, but it isn't something that we've learned from our childhood or something.
Yes, it's slightly counterintuitive. It's something
Yeah,
new and unique. It's challenging. Yes, I mean, I like definitely to summarize, it requires a lot of time practice so that you are able to solve it because they are actually lengthy and it's a challenge. Even in my GMAT attempt, I resonate with what Kartik is saying because I got the last two questions incorrect as well. But the thing is, like, if you've done the previous ones correct, like we were at that level that we can afford to get the last two correct because both of us like got 96 or 97 percentile in the data insight.
I think I got 99 even though I got the last two questions wrong.
That's brilliant. I got 97 after getting the last two wrong. So clearly, getting some of the question wrongs is okay if you reach that level. And the terms and condition is if you reach that level, like Kartik mentioned initially in the quant section as well, that if you're getting those kind of difficulty questions, you're already at a very high adaptive level, and if you get wrong at that time, it's absolutely okay. So let's move to the third and final section, which you found challenging for yourself, which is the verbal section. And how, like, how did you go about preparing for the verbal section, and what would your advice be to all these aspirants who are aiming for a very ambitious score as to how to go about the verbal section, which now is just RC and CR?
Yeah. So verbal section was the most challenging for me. So even during my preparation for CAT, verbal section was the most challenging section for me. So this is where like I approach your GMAT classes. The instructor Rahul, I don't know if he's here as well, but he really helped me a lot. Like he was available anytime just to clear any of my doubts. Like I really troubled him a lot, especially for the verbal section. Like there would be times where you think your answer is correct.
Hmm.
Like when you solve the mock, the explanation would also say that your answer is almost correct, but the other option is better.
Yeah.
So this is a kind of a confusing section. It requires a lot of focus because like when you're reading a long RC, so your mind tends to wander around and like you're reading but you're not understanding anything. So that is where you lose a lot of time. So in the verbal section, you really require to focus a lot, which will again come with practice. And I mean, for the whole GMAT, I think practice is the best solution to getting a good score.
Uh, Okay. Yes, that makes total sense. Like this paper is a lot about focus and practice, and that's why the name in itself is Focus Edition. Like once we're done with section by section, what do you think is a general, you know, timeline if we have to practice this much, and let's say we are in a job, uh, or we are like finishing our college, what kind of timeline should we aim for? I mean, I know it's not a one size fits all, but what is your perception about the time required to like aim for the kind of score that you've achieved?
Yeah. So again, as you said, it is not a one size fits all kind of thing. And as like I also prepared for CAT, which kind of helped me in the GMAT process. But there were a lot of other things that needed like uh, that were very different in the GMAT, especially the verbal section and the DI section. So I spent around 2 3 months preparing for GMAT, but that is like additional to 4 5 months of preparing for CAT as well. So I think the ideal duration for someone would be 5 6 months, where the person is giving like 6 to 10 hours a week, which would be enough. Like even people who are working at a company or something might be able to give 6 to 10 hours a week. So I think 5 6 months would be enough for you to get a good GMAT score.
Yeah, for perspective, we are having a discussion about the time required to get the 715, which is like the score that Kartik has achieved. And again, it's not one size fits all. And if you're aiming for a lower score, it does not require that much time. But yes, I mean, if you're aiming for the 99 percentile score, yes, it does require a lot of efforts and a lot of practice and a lot of patience, even if you have understood all the concepts. So apart from all of this, is there anything additional that you want to tell in terms of strategy and mindset, which you feel is required for this to ace this exam, the softer
So
aspect? of all of this?
I think motivation is the key driver in such kind of exams. Like if you're not motivated, you won't be able to put in a lot of efforts. You won't be able to get this kind of score. Like I think the biggest, like the best thing you can do for yourself is to be motivated. Like in your free time when you feel like not studying, you can wander around the websites of your dream school. Like I used to wander around Harvard's website, Stanford's website. So and the alumni of these colleges. So that really drives your ambition. Like you want to become like them. So you need to really work on this path. So that is the thing I would recommend. Like get yourself motivated first.
I mean, yeah, that's a very interesting perspective. And the last thing that I wanted to discuss before we open it to question and answer is mock analysis and like how many mocks to write and how to analyze them, how to improve over the analysis that you just did with mock. Because I mean, personally, as a trainer, I feel it's one of the most important things. But what is your view on it?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Like mocks are the most important part of your journey. So, like as I said, you need a lot of practice to ace the exams, and this practice must be timed, must be a timed practice. So that kind of practice only comes when you give mocks. When you are just solving a lot of questions, then you're not timing yourself pretty well. And again, so you won't understand how to manage your time in the exam. You might get your questions correct, but if you're not able to manage your time, you're only going to get like 50 up to 15 questions. And the next seven questions you might not even be able to reach those questions.
Hmm.
So that is where I think practicing mocks is very important. And like in that, I remember during my practice, like Shubham used to hold live mocks for me, where he would sit with me. And would you like to add on that?
I mean, yeah. So that's the thing that we do. Like we love doing live mock analysis because that's when you truly realize how to help someone in the process. Because when you're going question by question and then there's the time pressure, you really understand what the aspirant is going through. So like obviously, as a trainer, I personally emphasize a lot on mock analysis because I personally believe that's the most where I can help someone. So it's very important to finish practice, be thorough, and then have time for mock analysis. It's very important. Like I love analyzing mock. Once you're done writing your mock, share it with me. I just love analyzing mock because I think that's where we can help the most. Uh,
Exactly. It helps you find your weaknesses. It helps you find your strengths. It tells you where you need to put your efforts now.
Exactly, exactly. So yes, I definitely love it. So like these were all the questions that I wanted to ask Karthik. Like I really wanted this to be very concise and not be very preachy. Like we just wanted to discuss the practical ways and all the things that you went through. Let's just take the question. So the first question that I have right now is, can you please advise regarding preparation of GMAT for a non-science student? So what will be your input on that, Karthik, and then I'll add to it.
So, I mean, I mean, I don't think this is a very valid point that science students have an advantage in a paper like GMAT. The only place they have an advantage is in the quant section because they have practiced it a lot.
Mhm.
But the syllabus of the quant section, the DI section, I don't think they have any advanced mathematics involved in it. So I think they are basic 10 standard mathematics.
Mhm.
So if you practice really well, I mean the path is the same for a science student or a non-science student, and the path is only to practice as much as you can and clear your foundations.
Yes, I mean, just to add to that, I believe that the advantage is to the level of familiarity that someone has with those concepts and nothing else. If you get yourself familiar to that level, maybe you might need to do the same question twice or thrice because of the difference in familiarity. But the amount of hard work for, science students is compensated probably in the verbal section where we need to put two, three questions more. So overall, the average time is pretty much the same. And this bifurcation just confuses you, puts your confidence down. But to be honest, like Kartik mentioned, you are not challenged on very advanced concept. Like it's not beyond even 10 standard. So even if you did not take math after 10 standard, you won't be facing a challenge with GMAT unless you have a phobia in your mind. That's something a different territory altogether, which I find very challenging, because if someone has a phobia, then you have to tackle it in a very different way. But usually, like bifurcating science and non-science, it just does not matter. Okay, so is GMAT good option for BBA student who is appearing in last semester of BBA, or should go with CAT? I'll take this up, Kartik. So Ayush, it depends on your ambition, because when I talk about the colleges that accept GMAT score in India and give you the YLP program is ISB. And the like what the program that Kartik was aiming was, that's called Harvard 2+2. So Harvard 2+2 is basically you get admission right now after your graduation, and then you finish 2 years of work and you have like a deferred admission. So you submit your GMAT score along with your college. So if you're planning to get into a program where you have the admission and you just need to finish the work experience criteria, then definitely GMAT is a good option. But if you're planning to do MBA as a fresher, which is a phenomenon in India only, I mean that's something that's not very generic all over the world, then yes, CAT is a better option. But if you want to do MBA as fresher, if you want to do MBA as work experience, you would need GMAT anyway later on. So it's all on
I
context,
would
Ayush. Yeah, do you want to add
Can I
anything?
add to this?
Yes, sure.
I think scoring in GMAT is much easier than scoring in the CAT exam.
Hmm.
And I think you can get a better college through the GMAT exam. So I would recommend someone to give the GMAT. Like I think ISB is a much better college than others, which you can get from CAT. I mean, putting on the same efforts.
Yeah. So, thank you for that perspective. I missed that. Definitely, if you're putting the same effort, yes, definitely, GMAT scoring in GMAT is easier than scoring in CAT. CAT is like a year-long effort, easily year-long effort because of the comprehensiveness that is there in that exam. And GMAT does not require a full year-long effort. It requires a lot of focus, patience, and 3 to 4 months. So let's move to the next question. If someone has a math phobia, how to tackle that? I know practice is the key, but if someone panics after seeing a math question, what to do? I'll take this up. Disha, I mean, the best way is affirmations, for the lack of better word. You need to practice and get the answers correct. Once you start getting them correct, you slowly get the confidence, and that confidence builds up. And it's the same process I'm sure Kartik has gone through, right? When you were preparing for CAT. I mean,
Right.
initially, when did you start having the confidence? When you start getting like 90% of the questions correct from that topic. I mean, that's a common thing that happens with all of us. It's just that the difference would be maybe, so for someone like Kartik, he wouldn't have required to solve like 50 questions to get to that confidence. You would require to solve 50 questions to get to that confidence. It's all about starting to get the questions correct, which will slowly build the momentum. So maybe start with a lower level, then slowly increase the level, keep on getting the questions correct, and that will just completely remove the phobia. There's no other way. I mean, it's all about just trusting the process. You mentioned for Quant to brush up on math basic for DI and verbal. What would you suggest we can do in order to prepare better for GMAT? Because I can give 10 plus hours to GMAT. Yes, Karthik. So, any inputs on like you gave for Quant, that you can brush up on math basics? The question by Dia is that what recommendations you will have for DI and verbal, because she has a lot of time that she can devote to GMAT.
So yeah, first of all, again, I would say practice a lot. Second, you can brush up your verbal basics. Like there are a lot of things that you can do in your verbal section as well. Like how to understand an RC. That is a very big part, like which you can really. I mean, that is something of a skill which can be taught. Like it's most of I think comprehending something is the most important thing in the verbal part. And I think again, yeah, so it's very similar. Like all these sections, the preparation would be very similar to the quant section only. Like brush up your basics and then practice.
Okay, so we have a question from Neil. I got a 96 percentile in CAT but could not get in any good college. Do you think GMAT can be a good way forward? Like, how much percentile can I expect? What would you say, Kartik? So for someone who has gotten 96 percentile in CAT.
I won't be the best person to answer this. I would say you go ahead.
I mean, getting a 96 percentile in CAT is equivalent to getting a score of 685 to 695 in GMAT at the same level. And if you prepare a little bit, you might be able to push your score to 705. And like I said at the start of the webinar, 685 is enough to get you in any college in the world. So like 685 is the 96, 97 percentile bracket. So if you perform similar to how you performed in CAT in GMAT, you have much better prospects in GMAT as compared to CAT. It's easier to score a higher percentile if you've already achieved that percentile in CAT. I hope that answers your question, Neil, because you can easily expect a score of 685 or a 695, and that is a very convenient score to get you into any good college, like be it ISB or be international colleges like Harvard or INSEAD or HEG Paris. It opens your door. GMAT won't be the thing that stops you from getting into those college. That score would be enough to actually get shortlisted. Uh, Then what is the other good options to get admissions into good college if someone doesn't want to attend CAT? Yeah, Ayush, I think we can take this question post the webinar. Yes, there are a lot of local Indian exams like SNAP and MAT, ZAT that you can look apart from GMAT and CAT. But I think let's take this question after the webinar because I want to keep it very GMAT centric. Uh, so next question is, what was your timetable to prepare for the exam?
So, like, there's no specific timetable, but I think giving 10 hours a week to the preparation is very important. Out of which, from my 10 hours, 4 to 6 hours went only for mocks, and the rest 4 hours would go for brushing up my basics, like which were mostly focused on the verbal section in my case.
Okay, so you're saying whatever weekly time you had, half of that went into mocks and half of that went into brushing up the concepts and practicing, right? Like
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I mean, you can practice it anytime, like whatever suits you.
But
But
that
one thing I'd like to add, like when you give your mocks, so if you are opting for, let's say, 9:30 to 12:30 slot, try to give your mocks in that time only, because then you won't feel sleepy in that time.
yes, that's a very fair and very good point. Like make a habit of writing mocks in that time slot. It really prepares your body and brain to be ready and attentive,
Yeah,
which is a very important skill in the GMAT exam. Yeah, I totally relate to that because I got a early morning slot in CAT once and I struggled because my schedule was not to just wake up at 6 a.m. and then get prepared. That was like really
exactly.
struggling. uh, okay, so another question is so guys, you can also unmute yourself and ask questions and also type in the chat. I'll take all the questions. Just keep on posting the questions and so that's why we finish the discussion round early so that we can answer as many questions as possible because I think that's the most helpful thing. So Disha has asked concerning math, my logic reasoning goes out the window. I mean, yeah, just to answer this, Disha, yes, this will happen initially. You will need to have some patience initially. So understand this. So do you understand the logic of scaffolding? Like when a building is being created, you have these wooden structures, bamboo or some other wooden structures to hold the building initially. So you would need some help initially. And once you have a strong base, then the entire building won't require that scaffolding. So that scaffolding is like probably the right mentorship or the right content or the right video and patience. It requires that amount of patience and trusting your mentor that you're going in the right direction. Because once you start seeing the result, your logical reasoning will come back. It's just that your experience has been very bad with quant, and that's why you're probably biased against it. As soon as your experience gets better, it will improve. So the idea is to like take support, take help in the initial part. Even a skyscraper needs help initially. So it's all about taking that help initially to build that base, and then you can add up over it. So, Kartik, do you want to add anything on this question?
No, I think, yeah, what you said is exactly what I was thinking.
Okay. So Kajal is asking a question. Apart from practice, what mindset or approach is required to aptly comprehend the question and not get lost in the middle and lose out on time in the process?
I mean that comes with practice. If you want, you can actually practice meditation, and I mean that is not something I have done, so I cannot vouch for it. But that is something that my friends have done, which has helped them improve their focus. But it is a long process. Like if you'll need to meditate for 2 3 months straight, then you will start to notice some changes.
Yeah, so just
So
to
I mean, otherwise you can just practice.
just to paraphrase what you're saying, it's very important to have a clear mind while attempting the question. Any other thought that's roaming around, it will become very tough to actually focus on the present. So the main thing that we need to do is ensure that we are in the present and being able to focus. So anything like meditation, exercising, practicing that helps you to reach that level of focus, that is very important. Like just being grounded and in the present, because if you have any wandering thought, if you're anxious, if you're worrying, then you won't be able to understand the question properly and actually lose out on time. So anything that helps you reach there is good. Is ISB a better option than university abroad considering the exorbitant high fees? uh See, the thing is, it's a lot about personal preference, because a lot of folks go out of India because they want to settle abroad, or maybe they want to work in that economy. I mean, primarily, if you are in ISB, the kind of initial job offerings you will get would be in India. And then probably from that, you can go abroad. So the major question that should come in your mind while choosing a university is also, where would you like to work? So, I mean, better option is a very subjective answer, because, like, say, for a person like me who wants to settle in India, ISB is one of the best options that I have currently, because it makes me aware of the Indian economy. The entire MBA is about the developing economy like India. So, I am more comfortable and more employable in India by just graduating from ISB, and I'm like a very lucrative profile that every big company needs in India if I have a degree from ISB. But at the same time, let's say for example, I want to be in California or be like settle in Netherlands, then the requirements are very different. I mean, a university abroad might be a better option. So it's a very subjective question. Do you want to add anything to it, Kartik?
That's exactly. I mean, there's no particular answer to this. It's just that if you want to settle abroad, if you are okay with that, then you can go abroad. I mean, they have better opportunities, but at the moment, I think India is a very good at a very good growth rate. So I mean, I personally would like to prefer like I would personally stay in India at the moment.
Yes. Any other question, folks? Like any question whatsoever that you would want to ask, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, and you can just post the question in the chat. No other question? Any advice that you would need? Any question that you would need to be answered?
Sorry, Dia here again. I
Yeah.
just wanted to know, my question was to better prepare for GMAT, if you could give me other sources, because I do have time on my hands for like data insights and verbal. If you could give me other sources that I could prepare myself, because the classes are only on the weekend. So during the week, do the syllabus that you all have provided us, and if I can do something extra.
So, like if I talk about particularly for Your GMAT classes, the amount of work we give for the weekdays is overwhelming enough. And there are enough PDFs and videos and questions and pre-work provided that will keep you occupied all throughout the week. Just because the sessions are on the weekend doesn't mean that your preparation is not very active and heavy over the weekdays. At least our schedule is pretty hectic. And like obviously, there is something we can discuss post the webinar. You can just ping me up, and I'll just give you more material and give you more things to do over the weekdays. So we have enough content to give you and enough idea of how what content to give you and customize it for you. So you don't need to worry about all of that. Anything else that you would
Okay,
want to
thank
ask?
you. Thank you.
No worries. Will it be better to complete the course before starting with mocks?
I don't think so. Like you can start with mocks even in between. And you will see your scores improve. I mean, not. I mean, it's not very costly to give the mocks. It only takes 2 hours to give one mock. So I would say like once you've completed half the syllabus, you are confident that you'll be able to at least solve half the questions. Then you can easily start with mocks.
Yeah. I am of the same opinion. Like once you're done with almost half the syllabus, but you need to keep in mind that when you're analyzing, you should analyze the questions you did wrong in two manner. One, you did wrong because you did not know the theory. Second, you did wrong for any other reason. So the questions you got wrong because you did not know the theory, you should not worry too much about it. So if you don't let that affect you, like writing the mock anytime is a very good practice. But like what happens with some of the folks is that they get low on confidence and they get insecure by seeing the score, but you need to understand why you got that score. If it's because you got the questions incorrect because of lack of knowledge or theory, then you shouldn't worry too much. Like the point is, initial mocks, you shouldn't even look at the score. You're just getting used to the portal, you're just getting used to the structure. So score does not matter.
And
For
I think time management as well.
yes, time management as well. So score does not matter for first 3 or 4 marks mocks. Like whatever percentile you get, 10, 20, 30, 40, it's irrelevant. It's just you're just getting used to it. I hope that answers your question. Anything else that anyone would want to ask? Okay, so I think we have covered the doubts that all of them have. Thank you so much, Kartik, for taking out the time and having this webinar with us. Just
Thank
one.
you so much for attending as well, everyone.
Yes, I used like please connect with me personally and I'll help you out. So thank you so much, Kartik. I wish you the best for your future and let's stay connected. And I hope you write and get that 100 percentile in GMAT because you wanted to get that 100 percentile. I'm sure you
Yeah,
can do it. And it's a very big thing to get that score. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you everyone for joining. That'll be all for today. And I'm just ending the meeting now.